Hello, Robbie. The topics you raise really collapse into one for me in a kind of beautiful way. And as a fellow teacher, you'll recognize the unifying factor instantly, if probably already have, which is scaffolding. And for benefit of everybody else listening, scaffolding is the concept in teaching where the student or learner is learning to do a thing and the instructor or mentor or helper is providing enough material and enough instruction for them to do it themselves. So the term is literal. This scaffolding is what the worker stands on as they are doing something. But in the context of learning, it's providing enough support so that the person who's doing it for the first time or the first series of times can acquire the ability to do it themselves the next time or further along. So when you're looking at somebody doing this, they clearly cannot do it by themselves, or you can see them putting into operation the skills that they can't do unless somebody is providing the scaffolding. All right, I think you get the idea. Well, here we've got a couple of points to apply this concept. One of them is literal. So in terms of playing Sorcerer, people saying, well, how do the rituals work? And the crucial notion that they can apply the rituals themselves opportunistically in play. That if there is to be a demon summoning scene, it's not because the game master has planned it and said, this session we will have demon summoning and therefore cue the people in play that now is the time to do it. And oh, look, I have this room all ready for you to summon the demon in, and we carry it out like a stage set provided for the players by the director of the play. That's not the way Sorcerer is supposed to run. Instead, we're talking about players who, when and if they so desire, initiate some demon summoning, and that's the end of that story. Well, in this context of people learning to play, that kind of proactivity is not baked into many people's play habits, particularly at that level of consequence. So, therefore, people have to be told that rituals are available. And we're in the tricky situation of cueing versus instructing. If you're cueing, then you're saying, oh, I'm telling you about Sorcerer's demon summoning because now is a great time to do it, i.e. now is the time I want you to do it, i.e. now is the time that you are supposed to do it, that the planned moment is now here. And so I'm kind of being user-friendly in saying, oh, by the way, you have these rules, when what I really mean is do this, which carries the instruction that if I don't cue you, then you shouldn't. So that whole set of habits of suggestion, which is really direction, and response, agreement, which is really compliance, that's what we're trying to get away from. In the context of scaffolding, however, the presumption is that you are going to remove the scaffolding relatively soon now. Hopefully not while the person is standing up there and plummets, but rather in terms of somebody saying, I got it. So that's how it works. And then you say, good, I can take the scaffolding away. And from now on, I'm not going to do that anymore. And when and if you choose to put your skills, new skills into operation, I'm ready. That's great. So that's the first notion about learning Sorcerer, is that scaffolding is necessary, but in the very clear context of I'm going to be taking the scaffolding away, and it's not something that I really plan on doing. That sort of holding the rules open for you and pointing to the page and saying you can do this when you want, and this is how it works, is just part of the learning process. It's part of the curve, but it's not actually what we're going to do when we really get rolling. That's one thing. How to phrase that is a matter of personal style. How to implement it so that people believe it is a matter of some interest. Many, many times with Sorcerer, with Trollbabe, with back when I was Hero Wars was the dedicated Glorantha game. Playing Hero Wars is a good example, and several others. People would frequently refer to what they saw as my mysterious power of control. And they said, that's amazing. I could not see your hand in events. You must have invisible hands. You're a master of game mastering because I couldn't see how you made it turn out that way. All the other game masters, they think you can't see it, but I can see it. But with you, I can't. You're really good. At which point you have to tell them that you had no such hand. You were responding to the application of the rules as they were bringing into play through their characters' actions. And also the rules that were called into play through you playing your characters in action, as well as framing scenes, cutting them, and so forth in response to the events that had occurred. And there really wasn't any invisible hand of control in terms of how things were to turn out. They don't believe you, of course. And only after a while do people sort of come to believe that that's the case. Now, clearly, in both contexts, learning and then believing that this is actually occurring at all, which is part of the learning in some cases, both of those require revisiting the experience, trying again, and doing it next time. And in the case of role-playing, continuing to play session by session. This is a big deal and is the other big topic of your post, and I again think that they are related. Even after scaffolding has occurred, and part of the thing that's learned by doing it in a good teaching context and in the context of learning to do a thing, I certainly would apply this to science as a process. I would definitely apply it to martial arts. I definitely apply it to role-playing. I definitely apply it to music. The notion, of course, that once you are, quote, trained, now that you are a musician, for example, rather than a student. Well, anybody who is actually in that category, as far as observers are concerned, will tell you that they continue to be a student, that they continue to learn, that there isn't a learning phase and then a do phase, that the people who feel that way, once they hit the do phase, they plateau. And instead, you need to maintain a student frame of mind, even when people think that you're a master. Well, that said, let's take a look at what it means. What it means is as you continue to experience the activity, and clearly you're taking time in between. You got to sleep sometime. And in the case of things like these recreational group events, it's very important that you come back to it and do it again. And the same thing goes for learning in a class. One of the administrative features or attitudes that I fought against so hard in the final few years of my academic career was the huge push to make twice a week classes, Tuesday, Thursday classes, as opposed to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, universities have always had both, but I'm old enough to remember everyday classes, for one thing, but more commonly in my career, particularly when I was faculty, was you had a choice between Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday in designing your classes. Now, by the time I finished my academic career, 25 years all told, the push was instead for once-a-week classes versus twice-a-week classes. So, Wednesday night or Tuesday night versus Tuesday, Thursday. And that was it. The administrators loved this. Much easier to schedule. Charge the students the same amount. And it's all the same hours as far as they're concerned, right? 3 hours a week. Fantastic. Hour and a half Tuesday, hour and a half Thursday. How is that different from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, an hour apiece? I mean, come on, collapse. And 2 meetings, 2 rooms to schedule, not 3. And, this is great. Well, the administrators, as usual, are idiots and completely missing the fact that the units of the teaching and learning experience rely on intervals. And so, therefore, if you have Tuesday, Thursday class, you're basically getting 1 interval between them to think, and about more, I might add. And we're going to call the weekend a wash, bluntly. Maybe a little bit, a lesser interval. The interesting thing about these intervals is that you need them, but making them too long is going to obviate them. So therefore, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is a really, really effective teaching and learning device, because you get, all these intervals, and the weekend interval really isn't all that bad between Monday and Friday. It actually can be just, a good one for reflection, with the possibility of being a wash due to other activities. But again, the students are getting a plenty, and the teacher too, everybody is getting plenty of time to say, what happened Monday? Now I'm going in on Wednesday. What happened Wednesday? And going in on Friday. And when you have Tuesday, Thursday, you lose almost all of that. And it was real difficult. I fought really hard. I went for years after all of my colleagues, fighting and insisting on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a number of classes that had very, very high developmental factors in their designs. I insisted you have to have these intervals, enough intervals for the learning to take place from unit to unit to unit. It's not like they come in and they learn for 1 minute per minute during the class, and then everything outside of the class is gone, and then they go into class and then they learn minute per minute per minute. And so 3 hours, 180 minutes spread over 3 days is the same as chunked into 2 days. No, that's not how it works. Role-playing, same way, and I might add, well after the phase, when somebody is considered a beginner, after being a beginner and continuing to do the activity, continuing to learn, continuing to apply, continuing to develop your own expression thereof. And music is really, really a good analogy in this case, applies to role-playing in full. So yes, it's not just about long-form play because the fiction is longer, short-form play because the fiction is shorter. We're talking about a completely different approach to what is going on, and an awareness in, not as the game master necessarily, but as the person organizing and teaching this game, how one approaches this absolutely relies on these principles that I'm talking about, inspired by your post. So thank you for bringing all of that up and allowing me to reminisce or reflect on it. I think you're absolutely on the right track with it. Take care.